It is Monday, August 12th, 2024. This is another edition of Baseball Today, presented to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Don't forget to get your 5 Hour Energy question of the week in by Thursday so we can use it on Friday's show. I wasn't here for Friday, but that was my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, intern Tommy along for the ride as well. Was it a little unnerving having the boss man sit in our little show?
No, it was fantastic. We had a great show. I don't particularly love hosting. You guys, you and Jake do such a great job at it that when I step in, I feel like I'm not giving the people exactly what they want. But bringing Jimmy on was fun. We had a good time.
Good. Yeah,
Good
he
episode.
seemed to
He really enjoyed it.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, hey, that's a fun-filled, action-packed show. I was like, yeah, this is what we do, man. This is what we do. Hey, I very rarely get to do this. Wear a Colorado Rockies cap. So I am giving a tip of the cap to them. Down 8-2, going into the bottom of the 8th against the Atlanta Braves. They put up a 7 spot to win 9-8. Now, I don't know which of these stats is correct. ESPN said 1, and then there was another floating around, but they were close enough. The Rockies, with that victory, improved to 2 and 725 all-time when trailing by 6+ runs in the 8th inning. I could not believe that stat when I saw it.
And it's difficult to come back that much. I guess I would expect more than 2 victories. I'd like to see like what other teams, what their records are in those situations. Is it just the Rockies, or is that like a very difficult? It seems to me like that's really low. Now that I starting to think about it more, Chris, like you should at least maybe have 10 wins in the same time period, maybe
6 or 7, but 2 in the franchise's history was. Do you remember like a major comeback ever for you?
I don't really remember, but when you sent that over, I read the stat and I was like, that's like a silly stat. But the more I think about it now, it seems like it's a little light in the win column.
Yeah,
for being honest.
That's true. Well, the Rockies are the only team in the National League West that's not currently in the playoff picture, and that's where we're going to start today's show. Dodgers swept the Pirates. Arizona swept Philly in an NLCS rematch. San Diego and the Giants, they were both close to sweeps, but they ended up winning series. So the Dodgers are up 3.5 on the Padres and the Diamondbacks. The Giants are just 1.5 out of the wild card. In your opinion, good or bad for baseball if we see 4 teams from the same division punch their postseason ticket?
I don't think it's really good or bad for, the game of baseball. I think it'll be great to reward the teams, Chris. I think this is kind of where I go with this question. I think it's great to reward the teams that made changes and made improvements to their rosters like all of these teams did. And now they're finding themselves right in the thick of it. And if we did have 4 in the same division, I think it's cool. I don't know if that's ever been done before. I asked Jake that earlier on Talking Baseball. Like, has that ever been done? You're saying no. Great. I just think it's cool to reward the teams. The Giants went out and had a really productive offseason, and they didn't stop. They added at the deadline as well. You could say the same thing about the Padres. You could say the same thing about the Diamondbacks. They went out and improved their rosters, and obviously the Dodgers. They went out and improved their rosters, and here they are, with winning seasons and the possibility of all of them being in the playoffs. I think that's where I take the question more than anything. If you ask me, like, is it good for viewership or anything like that, I really don't know. I don't think it necessarily makes a difference. I think it'd be cool to see people, or I think it'd be great for East Coast people to kind of see some of the West Coast baseball, because I know it's very difficult to stay up for West Coast sports when you're living on the East Coast. But that's where I go. Hey, that's great. The teams that really tried to improve their rosters are in the thick of the playoff race.
Yeah, it could be a real problem for those who have to organize the TV schedule if everything is out west, seemingly. Although there would be one series, I would guess, in Philly, because I think they're going to hang on and be one of those top 2 seeds. They're all deserving. I will say that. Boy, they've all busted their ass to get here. Arizona's won 8 straight series in 20 of 25. Padres just had a 7-game winning streak snapped, and Jackson Merrill's playing out of his gourd. The Dodgers are playing a bit better, and San Francisco has won 12 of 16. Now, here's the thing. They've got 6 more against the Padres and Diamondbacks. That's going to be the telling tale if San Francisco can hang on, because they're the one, certainly in my opinion, I think you feel the same, that if you were to rank those 4 teams, that it feels like San Francisco is kind of a distant 4th. But because they've gotten some of their pitching back, and Blake Snell goes tonight against Chris Sale, which is a fantastic
Yes.
matchup. Like, this is a huge series, that Giants-Braves series, because the Braves are on the wrong way on a slip and slide, which has been turned vertically.
Yeah, I mean, they could enter the wild card race right now. I believe the Braves are a half game up on the Cardinals or the Mets, I think it is. And then, yeah, San Francisco just lurking a game and a half back. So they could – I think it's great. I don't know if you really answered the question yet. Do you think it's good or bad for the game? Does it matter?
I think it would be bad. I do. I think it would be bad.
Why?
I wouldn't mind seeing it because I think that some people would – baseball's already got a regional feel to it. And now if you're going to make 67% of the teams in one league in the playoffs come from one area, then it's going to really feel like, well, just another weekend in the National League West. I think for some people, I wouldn't feel that way. I love the playoff matchups regardless, but I think for people that are kind of teetering in the middle, like, oh, well, it's just the National League West. Like if I live in Cincinnati or if I live in St. Louis, or I live in DC, why am I going to give a crap about what's happening in those series out there? I'm worried about that.
Well, I mean, I don't think I guess you can make that point, but if you're in St. Louis and you miss out in the playoffs, like what does it matter what teams are in there? You're going to root for the Brewers? Because that's what it'll be. It'll be Phillies, Brewers, and 4 NOS teams.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think it matters that much.
Yes. We'll see. By the way, I want to touch on what happened in Miami yesterday. There are a lot of people that are kind of confused and, I want an explanation about
I'm
this.
one of them.
Okay.
I'm one of them.
Here's the deal. The Padres are down in the ninth. Ha-Sung Kim is up, and this happens.
To left field. Struck pretty well. Back goes Stowers. At the wall, he leaps, and that ball is gone! He may have pushed it out of the yard. Kim hits it out of the yard to left. Somehow it gets out. Padres tie it up 7-7.
Don, not so fast. We thought with 2 out in the ninth, we had another, sense of dramatics there with the Padres involved. What happened was the ball hit the wall, bounced back, hit off of Stowers, and then went out. The rule apparently is that if the ball ricochets back toward the field of play and then the player assists in it getting over the wall, that is though the ball was in play. Now, we've had plenty of times where a guy goes back to the wall, hits his glove up, or in Jose Canseco's case, hits off his head and goes over the wall. That's because it never had hit the wall before. Now, this was a little different. This was several years ago in Detroit where Jose Ramirez hits a ball off the yellow. Mikey Matuk has it hop off his hand and then goes back. That was called a home run. Now, I don't see the difference. So I was okay with what they called in Miami until somebody put this on Twitter. And I was like, I remember that play, and that was definitely a home run. So are you confused?
I'm very confused. And if you just presented me with this situation and said, hey, the ball's going to go off the wall, then off the defender, then back over the wall, I would have said home run. No doubt in my mind, I would have bet a lot of money on that. The ball never hits the ground, which is kind of like, that's what I think. Like, hey, the ball didn't hit the ground, so why wouldn't it be a home run? And then you just showed me that. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. What's the difference between those two plays? Was there an explanation there, or did the umpires just mess that one up and then got this one right? Because apparently, according to the rule book, they called it right. But again, this baseball rule book it seems like there's something new that comes out of it. Like, what? Like, I've been watching baseball for so long. I played for a long time, and like, I would never have known that.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like a moving target. So I was okay with the call on Kim because I listened to Mike Winters. He's a former umpire that comes on with the Padres broadcast crew occasionally. And he was like, yeah, they got the call right immediately. He said, I was watching it at the time, and I said ground rule double as I was watching, which would have been fine until somebody put the Jose Ramirez, Mikey Matuk clip on social media. And now I'm really utterly confused. Once again, like, baseball should take a stance on this stuff and say they should send this out to all media and put it out on their social media. Here is the difference if there was one. And if they have to come out and say, hey, listen, the one in 2017 or 2018, whatever year that ball was hit by Ramirez, if that one was called wrong, admit it. Like, people want to know. We crave information. So sorry we didn't clear that up for everybody. We made it worse, I think.
We have no idea what's going on. We have no idea.
All right, so we got a pair of division leaders meeting tonight in Milwaukee. Our intern Tommy is going to be very excited about this since it's in his hometown and his collegiate hometown because he goes to USC. Got Dodgers and Brewers. Mookie Betts is expected back for the first time since breaking his hand on that pitch. However, he will not be hitting leadoff. He will not be playing shortstop. Dave Roberts announced that Betts will hit behind Shohei and will return to right field where he's won 6 Gold Gloves. So the big question that Mookie got asked is why didn't he push to stay at shortstop?
I don't care. I just want to win, bro. Like, I genuinely don't care. And so, yeah, I could have said that, but that would have been not very smart. You know, that wouldn't have been a very smart thing, very selfish thing, and that's not the way I'm built. That's not who I am. Again, like I said, I've preached the same thing from the very beginning, and I always will.
Do you think he is a little upset that it didn't work out at shortstop?
I mean, in his tone there, it kind of seems like yes, and he fielded other questions, and the tone was a little off for me. But I don't know. I think in the end, he makes his point. He just wants to win. So if that means not hitting in a leadoff spot and letting Shohei do his thing, if that means going back into right field, and that's what's best for the team, he's obviously willing to do whatever it takes, because the transition to second base and then to shortstop was for the betterment of the team. It wasn't like, hey, Mookie just said he wants to do this. It was like, hey, this is going to make us the best possible team. And so he went and did it. So I think that is really all he cares about, Chris. It's interesting because a couple of days ago, I believe on Friday, they asked Dave Roberts about moving him from the leadoff spot. And he said, yeah, we're going to keep Mookie, at shortstop because we don't want to, something that happened down the line and then have to say, Mookie, come back to shortstop. So they wanted to keep him there. And then just 3 days later, maybe they had internal discussions. Maybe Mookie was a part of those. Now they're saying, go back to right field. I think it's going to be fine either way. I think this is what we said that was probably the best thing for the team, in the long run anyway, is putting Mookie back there and having someone at short, whether it's Miggy or it's Nick Ahmed, to just really be like that vacuum type of shortstop that you need. But I think he said it. He said, I just want to win.
He did say it, but his tone, that was a 4-minute interview.
The tone was off.
It was off. It was that I think that he is not 100% on board, if I'm reading him the right way. And I also think he's a little embarrassed, and I don't think he has a reason to be. Listen, it's virtually impossible to move to the hardest position on the field. To now do it in your 30s when you haven't been a regular infielder for years and years. Remember, he was a second baseman. Then he became a 6-time Gold Glove outfielder. And then he wanted to move back into the infield, and he did. And then he worked his ass off at shortstop. We've heard Miguel Rojas on the Rose rotation talk about how he is out there for hours with Mookie Betts, who's asking questions. And he said he's an amazing student. And Miggy told us at the beginning of the year he had no issues with him moving there and thought that he could be a really good defensive shortstop. It ended up that was not the way it went. And when you are one of the best players that we've seen in the sport since Mookie came along a decade ago, and now all of a sudden people are poking holes in your game, that's not fun. It's not comfortable. And on top of that, by the way, if you were to list the best shortstops in baseball, let's say Mookie returned to shortstop tonight. Where's Mookie rank?
That's so difficult. It's so difficult to rank.
Let's play this.
Yeah, he's up there because obviously what he brings offensively.
Yeah, but you're not going to take him ahead of Bobby Witt, right? No, come on, stop. Move.
I mean, no.
Okay,
I mean, look, Bobby Witt's having a fantastic year, but if you're asking me if Bobby Witt's a better baseball player than Mookie Betts, I have to think about that a little bit, Chris.
As of right now, I'm talking about a draft for the rest of this year. You're not taking Mookie as a shortstop ahead of Bobby Witt.
No,
you're probably not. Probably not taking him ahead of Gunnar Henderson.
He's been struggling a little bit.
Has been struggling.
I don't know, Chris. This is not as easy as you're making it seem, I don't think. I think you're kind of, what Mookie brings to the shortstop position. I know the defensive metrics haven't liked him there, but just putting an offensive threat like Mookie at shortstop changes things.
Let me play the other side of this.
Okay.
When Mookie goes out to right field, outside of Juan Soto, who do you want playing right field for you? Anybody else in the league?
Probably not. Max
No.
Kepler. No?
No. The answer is no. There's nobody, and I don't even think it's close. So Juan Soto's the best in baseball. Mookie Betts is next. When we get to shortstop, I think we could go through a whole bunch of guys that are kind of up there with Mookie. Just saying.
Okay.
There's one other
I
part
think
of this.
He's really good, man.
He is great. I'm not saying he's not great. I think that
Okay.
I think that part of this, though, has taken a little bit of the shine off of Mookie Betts. The defensive struggles.
No, it has not to me. To me. Raise my hand.
Okay. Betts was also asked about not returning to his customary leadoff role. Here's his quote, and I could not find this on camera, but I did see a bunch of beat reporters put this out there. Betts said, I mean, I can't say I'm better than Shohei. There's nothing really you could say. Whatever Shohei says goes, and after that, we kind of fall in line. What do you think of that?
Maybe it was just a bad press conference for Mookie. Maybe he was just feeling he had something going on that day. Maybe he was a little ornery or irritated. That also seems like kind of an out of the realm, like the Mookie realm of quotes, right?
Very much so. Like Mookie's always, when he has had a press conference, he's always smiling, almost always smiling, kind of has a nice tone about him, relaxed, easygoing.
Yeah.
The tone we played earlier was a much more caustic, short. And I'm not saying that everybody's entitled to bad days if he was having one, or he's entitled to being upset if he wants to be. Like, I'm not holding that against him. I am just curious if there is some friction here that's going on.
Yeah, there might be. I don't think you're like making this up. I definitely felt the tone of the voice, and it is different batting leadoff and hitting second. Mookie's been a leadoff hitter for quite some time there. I think he's 5th all time in leadoff home runs. So like there's that aspect to it. I don't think it matters where you put these guys. I really don't. I know Shohei's like went off, power wise since they put him at leadoff, but I feel like it'd be the same thing no matter what. I don't think it really makes a difference.
Yeah, if you're thinking about it baseball-wise, Shohei actually has 3 fewer homers from the leadoff spot, but in 100 fewer at bats. So he really has adjusted nicely to that role. It's just the last line, whatever Shohei says goes, and after that we kind of fall in line. You had heard rumblings of that sort of thought process by teammates out in Anaheim, but now when you're around a bunch of other superstars and potential future Hall of Famers, like that line being out there is, I'm surprised nobody's really hopped on that either.
Are you saying you think it was a little facetious? We don't have video of that one.
That's the problem.
So,
I don't know what sort of tone it was said.
You could have said it like in a really admirable way, like, "Hey man, we like whatever Shohei does, we fall in line." Or it could have been like, "Hey man, whatever Shohei says, we all just fall in line." There's a huge difference in those two tones.
Yes. And that's why I'm reluctant to make any sort of judgment here, because I don't think it's fair. I wish it had been on camera. I scoured all over the place trying to find it, and I couldn't.
Yeah, you offered us $5 if we could find it.
But what? That wasn't fair? Do you know
It's
how
not
much?
enough. Not in today's economy. Inflation, man. Let's go.
$7.50? 10?
10, yeah. I think 10's the starting point for anything now.
Do you think intern Tommy would have found it if it had been $10 instead of 5?
Yeah. You can get a Chipotle burrito for $10, I think.
That's true. Speaking of grub, it's always important not just to feed yourself, but your 4-legged friends as well. That's right, the Farmer's dog food. It is developed with vets. It's made fresh from real meat and veggies. It's perfectly portioned for your dog, and it's delivered right to your door. And it's so easy to get started. You head on over to thefarmersdog.com. You fill out a questionnaire. It takes less than 5 minutes. It's the basic stuff. The age of your pet, the breed of your pet, how much food it usually has, how much exercise it gets, and then voila, they send you food that is pre-portioned specifically for your pup based on their unique nutritional needs. It is smart, healthy pet food that you can feel good about feeding your dog. It's the best options for dogs at all stages of life, whether they're just getting started out in their puppy stage or like my dog, Sydney, who's like 12 or 13. We don't know exactly how old she is since we rescued her. So you get rid of that kibble. You get rid of that canned goop. You feed them real food that is better for them. We're talking about improving their skin, their coat, their breath, which is really nice because some of those dogs, even when you love them, you get close to them, you start playing around, you're like, damn, you are on fire today. Also, easier digestion for smaller and better poops. Healthy diet. It's not just for humans. So once again, doesn't matter if your dog is old or young. Right now is the time to begin investing in their health. Head on over to thefarmersdog.com/today. You're going to get 50% off your first box. Plus, you get free shipping, which is a big deal. It's not one of those teeny tiny Tiffany boxes. It's a big-ass box for your dog to give them all this food that comes in frozen packs with their name on it. You stick it in the freezer, and about 24 hours before it's ready to go, you put it in the fridge. It'll thaw out. Once again, head on over to thefarmersdog.com/today. You're going to get half off. At the end of the day, don't you want your pup loving you as much as you love them? Don't you want them looking up at you with those big chocolate eyes and saying, Ravi, Raru, thank you, Farmer's Dog. We move on to the American League Central, where things could have gotten really interesting Sunday in Minnesota. If Plouffe's Twins had just pulled it out, they had taken 2 of the first 3 in the series. They were nipping at the Guardians' heels. They were down 2 with the bases loaded and 1 out, looking to take 3 of 4. They had baseball's most consistent closer on the ropes. And then this.
Ground ball to second. Backhanded by Jimenez. Terocchio for 1. Book it! Arch makes the call, and the Guardians turn 2 and turn back the Twins to take the series finale and earn a split.
Woo! What's the one thing you learned about either one of these teams?
I don't know. I didn't learn much. It happened the way I thought it was going to happen. Both these teams are kind of similar right now, Rosie. You know, the Twins starting pitching depth is about to be tested big time because Joe Ryan's out indefinitely. They brought up a guy named Zebby today, another one of their top pitching prospects. So the Twins are going to be very, very young in their rotation. 3 rookies are going to be there to fill out the last 3 spots. I know the Guardians are obviously dealing with their own starting pitching stuff. So they to me, they're similar. Like they rely on their bullpens and both have great back end of the bullpens there. You know, 3 or 4 guys that can get the job done. And then I think the offenses, I'd say Minnesota, when all healthy, probably has a little bit longer of a lineup, but Cleveland has plenty of guys that can get the job done as well.
A lot longer. Don't say a little bit longer. Can we? I'm going to stop you there.
Right. I think Cleveland has 5 guys that can carry a team right now. Don't you think?
Go ahead and name them after the first 3, which is Juan, Ramirez, and Naylor. Go for it.
Well, David Fry had a big homer in this.
He's hit like 2 homers since the end of May.
I understand that. I'm trying to give you guys a little bit of credit. I think both these teams are similar, Chris. I really do. I think the Twins have had some guys have gone off. Like, I don't think Jose Miranda is this, 900 OPS type guy. I think he's a quality big league hitter, but I don't think he's a guy that's like, I know he had a 12 game or 12 for 12, whatever it is. I just think they're more similar than maybe you give the Guardians credit for. I really do. I think if they were to match up in the playoffs, or if it was to come down, to the end of the season, I think these teams just match up really well against each other. It was a fun series to watch. And yes, I was watching live yesterday. Willie Castro up there, bases loaded, nobody out, puts together a great at bat, 3-2 pitch, and Clase just threw the perfect cutter down in against him, and then Larnach with a double play. It was tough to watch. I was hoping to get Royce Lewis up there, bases loaded, 2 outs at the very least. I wanted to see that matchup, but the double play ended it. I don't know. That's my takeaways. Both these teams are very evenly matched.
I am thankful as a Cleveland fan that we got out of there with a split after getting smacked in the face in a doubleheader on Friday. Like, you don't get swept in doubleheaders very often. It happened twice in 3 days against the Guardians. First by Arizona and then by Minnesota. And I was like we could, in the Rose household, if you had had a camera here, it was all happening. It was happening.
What was that 3-0, the 3-0 fastball? You can't throw that to Matt Wallner right now.
No, you cannot. That was just despicable. It's just people hear me talk about the Guardians, and it's just like we're hanging on for dear life. We're trying to make it. The lineup, it feels like
what did you learn? What did you learn?
Nothing. I know that for a fact that Cleveland, we are allergic to winning games by more than 2 runs. So that never happens. Minnesota, it's amazing that you guys like never have Lewis and Correa in the lineup at the same time. So if and when you do, I think you're a real viable threat. And yes, both teams' starting pitching is getting tested. And I think both teams should be scared the hell out of by Kansas City. You guys have to deal with them right now. And the Royals are playing confident ball. Cleveland's got 7 more with the Royals and 4 more with the Twins. And you guys still have time with the Royals. What do you have? 2 more series with them, I think?
I think so.
Yep. So this is going to come right down to the final 10 days of the season. Good for baseball fans because I think it's going to be really fun. Really, really fun. I would say out of the other teams in the American League, they should be most fearful. I honestly believe this of Kansas City, then Minnesota, then Cleveland.
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
That's a little bit of recency bias, but okay.
Yeah, probably. I don't think Cleveland can turn things into they can't get 5 innings out of their starters in the playoffs. You're going to be seeing
you've been saying this all year long. Cleveland this, Cleveland that, whatever. They're still in first place.
They are, but
first place, dude. It's August 12th.
You're right. They're up 3.5 on the Twins and 4 on Kansas City. All I'm going to tell you is it's going to be a fun battle down the stretch. Let's move to this in the American League. AL East tied between New York and Baltimore. Same goes for the AL West between Houston and Seattle. All those teams, they brought their lumber this weekend.
High drive, right center, Garcia back, track, wall, see ya! A home run for Judge.
Longer than air yard on sends one to center field. Welsh drug, Rafaela back. This ball's gone to straightaway center.
Careful for Raleigh, who's already got one. He steps in on another one. Cal Raleigh, a 3-run shot, second of the night.
By the way, first time in 20 years that Sunday Night Baseball was in Seattle. Let's do a better job.
Interesting.
Let's do a little bit better job, right? I mean, I know that the only teams that sell nationally are the Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, Cardinals a little bit, Phillies. That's probably it. Maybe you can make an argument for the Braves. So 6 teams. I understand that. Been in the business a long time. I get it all. But man, oh man, to go 2 decades between a great city, a great stadium, and a fun team at times, let's be a little bit better. But my point is, or my question is, which division between the AL East and AL West will be more of a nail-biter down the stretch?
I mean, there's really no way to tell, Chris. You're asking me which one of these ones is going to be closer in 6 weeks. I think the storyline that I'll follow more closely and the one I'm more interested in is the AL West, because as of right now, it's win the division or go home. And I think that's kind of what I'm focused on. You know, they're 2.5 games back. The Mariners are, if you go by percentage points, of a wild card spot. So they could both these teams could end up making the playoffs. But as we sit right now, it would just be one of them. And there is that 3-game set in the penultimate series of the year between those two, which I think will be really interesting. So I think because of those 2 reasons, I'm a little bit more focused on the Mariners and Houston. And both these teams have been playing really, really good baseball as of late. You know, I don't want to discredit like anything that Seattle has done. The pitching's been great. They just whooped on the Mets. But the way Houston, just the history of them and Bregman's starting to go now, and Arrigetti's been pitching and like kind of lengthening that rotation as well. I read a stat earlier on Talking Baseball. I think it was since May 21st, they've allowed the least amount of runs in all of baseball. It just seems to me like Houston is going to end up winning that division, but I will be watching it very closely.
Good for Baltimore. I will say this: Zach Eflin has been a godsend for you guys, right?
Yes.
I was certainly critical of them not getting a good enough arm, and Eflin has been that and then some to put right behind Burns come playoff time, which is really important because Grayson Rodriguez, they're hoping for September comeback for him, but we'll see, if he's going to have enough time to get back healthy. But I will also focus on the American League West. I am curious how good Houston can get. Verlander just threw a 3-inning rehab start. Kyle Tucker started to run the bases. By the way, this must be the worst shin in history. I mean, he's been gone. It feels like he's been gone for months, right?
Dude, he nailed himself, Chris.
I know.
He nailed himself.
Did
Did you see the Alex Smith photo? Speaking of legs, like weird legs.
God.
Do you think that's what Kyle Tucker's leg looks like?
Yeah, I was at Niners camp last Tuesday, and Alex Smith was there. I almost wanted to go up and just go take a snapshot of that thing.
Just touch it. I want to feel it.
Yeah, just feel it, see what it's like. I cannot. That was horrible that day that happened. So I'm going to say the American League West because I do want to see if Seattle, they've made the playoffs. And, oh, by the way, Julio's back. Nice return.
Yeah.
Did you see his line last night?
It's okay. 5
strikeouts?
Well, look, it's the first game back. He's historically, going to come on in the second half. And before he got injured, he was raking again. So I'm going to give him a 1-game pass. How about that?
Well, that's perfectly fine. That is a rough go, though. That's a tough welcome back on Sunday Night Baseball. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the American League West. I want to see if Seattle can win its division for the first time in more than 2 decades. That's going to be a fun roll. So, by the way, you were talking about how the Mariners and Astros play that second to last series. So do the Yankees and Orioles. There's a lot of big series, the second to last series this year. I think they want to make sure that things are tight going into that last series. I guess that's the thought. Hey, did you see the story with Logan Gilbert over the weekend? After he pitched 7 shutout innings against the Mets, he went and played college football 25. It looks like this is during the game. If so, any problem with it?
I talked a little bit about this on Talking Baseball. I need the context. I need to know exactly when that was. But this is what starting pitchers do. They don't really ever come back out into the dugout after they're done pitching. I'm assuming he's got ice. I'm assuming he's got something going on, some rehab. But this is what they do, and this is why I make fun of pitchers all the time. I asked this question to Jake. I said, Jake, now say I was a third baseman in that game, and I went 2 for 3 with a homer, a double, 4 runs driven in. So I did my job just the same way that Logan Gilbert just I dominated the game. And then I got lifted for a pinch runner, and then I came back and started playing Madden 25. There's a little bit of a double standard, right? You would say the position player, don't go do that. You got to root for your team. The starting pitcher, they do whatever they want, and that is why I always get on them. I'm not getting on Logan Gilbert. You do what you do. This is what starting pitchers do. But now people are starting to see, the difference is starting pitchers do a lot of things that nobody else on the team can do.
Okay. Even if he has to just chill and ice or whatever you do as a starting pitcher once you're done, shouldn't he be watching it wasn't like it was 14-0. I think it was 4-0. So yes, feeling good about it, but I don't know, man.
This is just
I don't know
what
how
they
that
do,
would play.
Chris. It's just what they do, man.
Yeah. I do think we obviously, number one, we need to know is that after the last out, it certainly doesn't feel like it because it looks like it's just him and nobody else is around. I can't imagine that the Mariners are happy that video got out, regardless. Right?
I don't think they care. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just funny that I love being able to point out why I'm so anti-starting pitcher.
Yes, you are. Okay, you know what you're not anti? I want to ask you this question. If you want to be a tailgate champion, you want to win 10 grand for the ultimate football tailgate, all you have to do is enter the 5-Hour Energy Tailgate Championship Sweepstakes, and you could have a chance to win $10,000 toward your tailgate. You can find out more at 5hewin.com. That is the number 5hewin.com. Here's the thing. It is quick. It is simple. It is effective when we're talking about 5-Hour Energy. You drink it in seconds. You'll feel it in minutes, and it will last with you for hours. Here's the nice thing. I know people are watching their sugar intake. There is 0 sugar. It is packed with B vitamins and amino acids. It provides a feeling of alertness and energy. Not everybody can wake up feeling like me every day and ready to go. You need a little help. That's okay. It provides a feeling of alertness, energy. It's available in a wide range of flavors. 5-Hour Energy shots, they're portable. They're convenient. They go with you, give you that feeling of energy whenever you need a little bit of a pop. So learn more about what's going on at 5HeWin.com. There's no purchase necessary. That deal ends on Halloween. That is October 31st of this year. See full official rules for details on how to enter without purchase at 5HeWin.com. Shop now at 5hourenergy.com to find your favorite flavor as well and pack your day full of energy. All right, we started the show telling you about Dodgers sweeping Pittsburgh. It was not Andrew McCutchen's fault on Sunday. He hit 2 big homers, which was awesome. Some people may have noticed a couple of guys in Buccos jerseys in the outfield at Dodger Stadium. They were like, wait a second. Wait a very second. Because if you spin the clock back 9 years ago to San Diego, California, after Mark Melanson's closing one out, there's a couple of kids with pops out there in left field wearing their Pirates jerseys. Andrew McCutchen comes over, gives them a wristband, and these kids have the best emotional response you've ever seen. You could see them saying, I love you, fans for life, the whole bit. Well, sure enough, people went back and said, hold on. Those kids are all grown up 9 years later, and now they're there at Come on.
That's awesome.
Is that amazing?
Those are the same kids, right?
I mean, I did not get definitive word, but and listen, there's 9 years difference. So in the first photo, they look 10, 11, something like that,
I love
maybe.
it, man. And Kutch put on a show for him too. The second homer, just big time. I love that. I'm happy. That's cool. That's a really cool still photo right there.
By the way, if it's not the same kids, I mean, it's hard to tell when you've got kids that are, 10 or 11 and you haven't seen them for a decade, and then all of a sudden pop up and you're like, I think that's them. I do that all the time. Kids I coached in Little League, and then Brady, runs into them somewhere. I had a kid this year that we played against in high school baseball. I coached him when he was 9 years old, and now he was playing against Brady. He's like, yeah, Grant's on the other team. I was like, Grant Morin? Like, yeah. I went over. I said, hey, it's Coach Chris. He's like, yeah, I saw you over there, Coach. Now the kid's going to Michigan or whatever. And he turned into a decent baseball player. Not because of me, though. I can tell you that. Sorry about it.
Shout out Kutch, man. Just always making the game better.
Oh, my God. Incredible. It really is incredible. All right, we're back at it again on Tuesday. Good series getting going tonight. Cannot wait for the Sale-Snell matchup. I'm going to be tuned into that one. Whole bunch of other stuff happening as well. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, our awesome intern, Tommy Young, who did indeed try to find that Mookie Betts soundbite. That is the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Tuesday here on Baseball Today, presented to you by 5 Hour Energy.